You don't need a new version of yourself. You may only need to return to who you already are. As we step into 2026, many people feel quietly tired. Not because life is broken, but because it has been heavy for a long time. A man once told me in his 70s, "I have done everything I was supposed to do. Why do I still feel tired inside?" That question stayed with me for a long time, because many people feel the same way, but rarely say it out loud. Most of our lives, we are taught to improve, to fix what feels wrong, to push ourselves to become better, stronger, more accomplished. But what if the exhaustion you feel is not because you failed? What if it is because you have been forcing yourself for too long? This video is not about becoming more productive in 2026. It is about coming home to yourself. Through 10 gentle Buddhist lessons, we will explore how to live with less struggle and more peace. If these words feel familiar, you don't need to understand everything right away. Just listen gently. Your presence here already matters. Lesson 1. Simplify to hear your inner voice. Before you can truly focus on yourself, you must first create space. And I want to say this gently, because many of us have lived long lives carrying responsibilities, roles, and expectations. We are not lacking wisdom, we are lacking quiet. I often meet people who tell me, "I don't know what I want anymore." And usually the problem is not that the inner voice is gone, it is that life has become too loud for it to be heard. Clarity cannot arise in noise. This is not only Buddhist teaching, it is also what modern psychology tells us. When the mind is constantly stimulated by news, screens, obligations, and endless opinions, the nervous system stays in a state of alert. In that state, the brain does not listen inward, it only reacts outward. I want you to imagine this. You are trying to hear a soft piece of music, but the room is filled with shouting. Would you blame the music for being quiet? Or would you gently lower the volume in the room? Buddhism teaches simplicity not as deprivation but as devotion, not having less for the sake of having less, but choosing what truly nourishes over what quietly drains you. Many years ago, a man in his late 60s came to speak with me. He had retired, his children were grown, yet he said, "I feel more exhausted now than when I was working." As we spoke, it became clear that his days were filled with obligations he no longer questioned. Committees, phone calls he felt guilty ignoring, news programs that left him anxious every evening. Nothing in his life was wrong. It was simply full. In Buddhist practice, we often say that wisdom speaks softly. It does not shout, it does not argue, it waits. And when life is overcrowded, wisdom waits a very long time. I want to ask you something, and you do not need to answer out loud. When was the last time you sat in silence without trying to fix anything? Without reaching for a phone, without replaying a conversation? Simplifying does not mean withdrawing from the world. It means becoming selective with your attention. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every thought deserves belief. Not every habit deserves continuation. From a psychological perspective, reducing mental clutter allows the prefrontal cortex, the lesson of the brain responsible for clarity and discernment, to function more effectively. But you do not need to remember that. You only need to notice how relief feels when you let an unnecessary thing go. In Buddhism, emptiness is not absence, it is openness. When excess falls away, awareness has room to speak. In the year ahead, I invite you to try something small. Once a week, remove one thing that adds pressure but no meaning, one obligation, one habit, one source of mental noise. Then pause and listen. You may discover that your inner voice was never lost. It was only waiting for space. Lesson 2. Learn to be alone without feeling lonely. When noise fades, the truth gently appears. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly, the way dawn enters a room before you realize the night has ended. Many people I speak with tell me they fear being alone. They say, when I'm alone, my mind becomes restless, or silence makes me uncomfortable. And I always listen carefully, because what they are really saying is not about solitude. They are speaking about what arises when distractions fall away. Solitude is not abandonment, it is the meeting place with yourself. Yet in our culture, especially here in America, we are taught from a young age that being alone means something is missing. If you are not busy, not surrounded, not engaged, something must be wrong. But let me ask you gently, have you ever been in a room full of people and still felt lonely? Have you ever been in conversation, smiling, nodding, and yet felt unseen inside? Loneliness does not come from the absence of people. It comes from the absence of presence. In Buddhist understanding, stillness is not emptiness. It is intimacy. It is the moment you stop running from yourself. The Buddha spent long periods in solitude, not because he rejected life, but because he wanted to understand the mind without interruption. In silence, patterns reveal themselves. Thoughts you did not know were repeating begin to show their shape. Emotions you have been postponing quietly raise their hand and say, I am still here. I remember a woman I once spoke with in her early 70s. Her husband had passed several years before. She told me, I keep the television on all day, even when I'm not watching. When I asked why, she paused. Then she said, because when it's quiet, I feel something I don't want to feel. This is very human. The mind uses noise as protection, but protection is not the same as peace. From a psychological point of view, when we allow ourselves to be alone without stimulation, the nervous system begins to regulate. The mind stops scanning for the next distraction, and what arises is not danger, but information. I want you to imagine sitting with an old friend, someone who has been waiting patiently, someone who does not demand anything from you. That friend is yourself. Being alone does not mean isolating from the world. It means meeting yourself without interference. It means discovering that you are capable of keeping your own company with kindness. In Buddhist practice, awareness does not ask you to fix what appears. It only asks you to notice. If sadness arises, you notice. If restlessness arises, you notice. You do not push it away. You do not explain it. Over time, something softens. Loneliness begins to transform into companionship. The mind becomes less of an enemy and more of a witness. In the year 2026, I invite you to practice small moments of intentional solitude. Sit quietly for 5 minutes without reaching for anything. Take a walk without music. Drink your tea and simply feel the warmth in your hands. You may discover something surprising. The peace you were seeking from others has always lived within you. And when you no longer fear being alone, your relationships change. They become choices, not necessities. Stillness becomes strength, and you carry calm with you wherever you go. Lesson 3. Stop abandoning yourself to please others. Awareness reveals where you have quietly disappeared. Not all at once. Not in dramatic moments, but slowly, politely, almost invisibly. Once you begin to hear yourself again, something becomes very clear. You start to notice how often you silence your truth in order to keep the peace. How often you say yes while something inside you tightens. How often you smile while your body whispers no. Many people believe this is kindness. They believe they are being generous, understanding, patient, and sometimes they are. But over time, this habit carries a cost that is rarely spoken about. I want to ask you something gently. Have you ever reached the end of a day and felt exhausted, even though nothing difficult happened? Have you ever felt resentment without knowing exactly why? Very often, this fatigue comes from abandoning yourself in small ways, from repeatedly placing other people's comfort above your own inner clarity. In Buddhism, suffering does not only arise from loss or failure, it also arises when we live in contradiction to our true nature. Each time you ignore your inner voice, a subtle fracture forms, not loud enough to be noticed immediately. But the body remembers. I once spoke with a man in his early 60s. He was known in his family as the reliable one, the one who never complained, the one who always showed up. When he finally sat quietly and spoke honestly, he said something very simple. I don't know who I am when I'm not needed. This is more common than we realize. Many of us learned early in life that being agreeable felt safer than being honest, that harmony was more important than truth. And so, we adapted. From a psychological perspective, constantly overriding your own needs activates a stress response in the body. The nervous system stays alert, scanning for approval. Over time, this leads to burnout, irritability, and emotional numbness. But Buddhism offers a different understanding. Compassion does not begin by sacrificing yourself. It begins by including yourself. Self-respect is not the opposite of kindness. It is its foundation. When you abandon yourself, eventually you have nothing left to give. I want you to imagine this. You are pouring water from a cup that has a crack in the bottom. No matter how much you pour, it never feels like enough. Not because you are insufficient, but because you are leaking energy through self-betrayal. Choosing yourself does not mean becoming harsh or selfish. It means being honest with care. It means recognizing that your inner experience matters. In 2026, I invite you to practice a small but powerful pause. Before responding to any request, take one slow breath. Ask yourself quietly, do I truly have the energy for this right now? Does this align with my values? Let the answer guide you. Even if you choose to say yes, let it be a conscious yes. Each time you honor your truth, something subtle changes. The body relaxes. The heart feels less burdened, and peace begins to feel less like something you chase and more like something you remember. When you stop abandoning yourself, compassion becomes natural, because it finally has a stable place to stand. Lesson 4. Detach from comparison and walk your own path. The moment you return to yourself, comparison loses its power. Not because you force it away, but because it no longer has a place to stand. Comparison rarely arrives loudly. It slips in quietly. While you're scrolling through your phone, while listening to someone else's accomplishments, while a small voice inside asks, "Am I doing enough?" At first it seems harmless, but over time, comparison becomes a lens through which you see your entire life. I want to ask you something gently. Have you ever looked at someone else's life and felt behind, even though you were once proud of your own journey? Have you ever questioned your pace, your choices, your timing, simply because someone else seemed further ahead? In Buddhism, we are reminded that suffering arises when the mind clings to ideas of more and less, ahead and behind. When you compare yourself to others, you are not comparing realities. You are comparing surfaces to depths. You see their results. You do not see their doubts. You see their highlights. You do not see the invisible costs they paid. From a psychological point of view, comparison activates the brain's threat system. It tells the nervous system that something is wrong, that you are lacking, that you must hurry. And when the body believes it is late or insufficient, it cannot rest. But Buddhist wisdom offers a gentler truth. There is no universal timeline for healing, awakening, or fulfillment. Each life unfolds according to its own causes and conditions. What nourishes one path may exhaust another. I once spoke with a woman who had recently turned 70. She said, "I feel like I should be further along spiritually." When I asked her who she was comparing herself to, she paused. Then she smiled and said, "I don't actually know." This is the nature of comparison. It often has no clear reference point, only pressure. Growth does not always look like forward movement. Some seasons are meant for rest. Some are meant for integration. Some are meant for quiet rebuilding after long years of effort. When you stop racing against others, something softens inside. The nervous system relaxes. You realize you are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where your life has led you. In Buddhism, to envy another path is to misunderstand your own karma. Your experiences, your timing, your lessons are not mistakes. They are the curriculum of your life. In 2026, I invite you to practice gentle awareness instead of comparison. When comparison arises, do not judge yourself. Simply notice it, acknowledge it quietly, then return your attention to your own steps, to what feels meaningful to you, to the pace that allows you to breathe. Ask yourself, who am I becoming when no one is watching? What feels honest to my heart, even if it looks ordinary to others? Your journey does not need validation to be valuable. When you stop comparing, energy returns, clarity follows, and a quiet confidence begins to grow. You are allowed to walk your path at the rhythm that feels true to you. Lesson 5. Release the need to control what is not yours. Peace begins where control ends. This is not a poetic idea. It is a lived truth, one that many people only understand after years of exhaustion. Once self-trust is restored, something quiet begins to happen. The illusion of control loosens. You start to sense, almost instinctively, the difference between what is yours to tend and what was never yours to carry. Many people come to me and say, I am tired all the time, even when nothing is wrong. When we sit together and look closely, we often discover the same pattern. Their minds are busy managing outcomes, replaying conversations, trying to predict reactions, worrying about how things will turn out. I want to ask you something gently. How many moments of your day are spent somewhere in the future, trying to prevent disappointment, trying to guarantee peace? In Buddhism, this is called clinging to control, and it is one of the most exhausting habits of the human mind. Control feels like safety at first. If I think enough, plan enough, worry enough, maybe nothing will go wrong. But the body knows the truth. When the mind tries to control what it cannot, the nervous system tightens, the breath becomes shallow, the shoulders rise. From a psychological perspective, chronic control keeps the brain in a state of threat monitoring. It prepares for danger that may never come. And preparation without rest slowly becomes anxiety. The Buddha offered a simple but radical insight. Life unfolds through countless causes and conditions. Most of them are not yours to manage. There is a difference between responsibility and burden. Responsibility asks for presence. Burden demands certainty. I once spoke with a woman who spent years trying to keep her family happy. She monitored everyone's moods. She adjusted herself constantly. When I asked her what would happen if she stopped, she whispered, everything might fall apart. But when she finally loosened her grip, something unexpected happened. Nothing collapsed. What changed was her exhaustion. Letting go of control does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean giving up or not caring. It means responding skillfully to what is in front of you instead of fighting what is not. In Buddhist practice, this is called the middle way. Not forcing, not avoiding. I want you to imagine holding sand in your hand. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. When you open your palm, it rests naturally. In 2026, I invite you to practice this gently. When anxiety arises, place a hand on your chest. Take one slow breath, and remind yourself quietly, this moment does not require control. It requires presence. Ask yourself, is this truly mine to fix? Am I acting from clarity or from fear? When control loosens, something beautiful happens. The body relaxes. Decisions become clearer. You stop bracing against life. You begin to trust not the outcome, but your ability to meet whatever arises. And that trust is far more stable than control ever was. You are not here to carry the weight of the world. You are here to walk with it lightly. And when you release what was never yours to hold, peace has room to arrive. Lesson 6. Heal before you harden. Let awareness soften what life has tightened. This lesson comes quietly, often after many years of doing what was necessary to survive. We do not harden because we want to. We harden because at some point, softness felt unsafe. When control begins to drop, something important happens. Buried pain can safely surface, not all at once, not violently, but gently, like a door that has been closed for a long time finally opening a little. Many people confuse emotional distance with strength. They say, "I don't let things affect me anymore," or "I've learned not to feel too much." And on the surface, this can look like wisdom. But Buddhism teaches something more honest. True strength does not come from numbness. It comes from healing. I want to ask you something very gently. Have you ever noticed yourself reacting strongly to something small? A tone of voice, a comment that lingered longer than it should have, a situation that touched something deeper than the moment itself. This is not weakness. This is an unhealed place asking to be seen. In my years of listening to people, especially those later in life, I have learned this. Pain that is not healed does not disappear with time. It waits. It waits in our impatience, in our defensiveness, in the walls we build without realizing it. One man once said to me, "I don't get angry. I just shut down." When we sat with that silence, he realized it was not peace. It was protection. Protection learned long ago. From a psychological perspective, unresolved emotional pain keeps the nervous system on guard. The body remains alert even when the danger has passed. And living in that state for years is exhausting. Buddhist wisdom begins with a simple truth. Suffering must be acknowledged before it can be released. Awareness loosens what resistance tightens. Healing does not require reliving every memory. It does not ask you to analyze your entire past. Healing happens in the present moment. It begins when you allow what is here to be felt, without judgment. I want you to imagine sitting with a child who is upset. You would not tell them to toughen up. You would not rush them. You would stay. This is how healing works. When sadness arises, you let it move. When anger surfaces, you allow it to breathe. When grief appears, you give it space. You do not become these emotions. You are the awareness holding them. In Buddhism, emotions are like weather passing through the sky. The sky does not harden because of a storm. It remains open. In 2026, I invite you to choose healing over emotional armor. When you notice yourself closing, pause. Ask quietly, what am I protecting myself from right now? What would happen if I softened just a little? Softness is not weakness. It is wisdom that has learned how to listen. As healing replaces hardening, something changes. Boundaries become natural instead of rigid. Relationships feel clearer. You stop confusing familiarity with safety, and slowly, without force, strength takes a new form. Not resistance, but tenderness. Not armor, but presence. This is the strength that does not exhaust you. This is the strength that allows peace to stay. Lesson 7. Practice non-attachment without closing your heart. Love deepens when grasping dissolves. This is one of the most misunderstood teachings in Buddhism. Many people hear the word non-attachment and imagine distance, coldness, or emotional withdrawal. But non-attachment is not about caring less. It is about caring without fear. I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. Have you ever noticed how love changes when it becomes mixed with anxiety? When care quietly turns into worry, when closeness slowly becomes control. This is where attachment begins. Attachment is not love itself. Attachment is love holding its breath. It is the fear of loss, the fear of change, the fear that if something shifts, you will not survive it. In my years of listening to people, I have seen this again and again. Someone says, "I love my family so much," but beneath that love is constant tension, monitoring, worrying, trying to manage outcomes that cannot be managed. And slowly, love becomes heavy. Buddhism teaches that love is not meant to imprison the heart. It is meant to move freely. When we cling, we are not protecting love. We are protecting ourselves from uncertainty. I want you to imagine holding a bird in your hands. If you grip too tightly, you harm it. If you open your hands completely, it may fly away. Non-attachment is learning how to hold gently. From a psychological perspective, secure connection comes not from control, but from trust. When we trust our ability to meet change, we no longer need to cling. The nervous system relaxes. Presence replaces vigilance. Healing plays an important role here. When old wounds soften, love no longer needs armor. You begin to care without bracing yourself for loss. I once spoke with a man who said, "I'm afraid to let go because then I won't matter." And I told him something very simple. Letting go does not make you invisible. It makes you present. Non-attachment does not weaken connection. It purifies it. When you stop trying to secure love, you listen more deeply. You allow others to be who they are, not who you need them to be. You show up without needing guarantees. Ask yourself gently, am I holding on because I love, or because I am afraid to lose? This question alone can change how you relate to everyone in your life. In Buddhist practice, non-attachment is an expression of trust. Trust in impermanence. Trust in your resilience. Trust that you can meet change without breaking. In 2026, I invite you to practice this in small ways. When someone speaks, listen without preparing a response. When you care, do so without expecting a specific outcome. When change arrives, meet it without resistance. Notice how your body responds when you stop bracing against loss. The shoulders soften, the breath deepens. Relationships begin to feel lighter. Moments become richer. Not because you're holding them tighter, but because you are fully there. Nothing needs to be possessed to be meaningful. Some things are meant to be experienced, not secured. Non-attachment is not distance, it is intimacy without fear. And when you loosen your grip, love does not disappear, it breathes. Lesson 8. Release the identity you have outgrown. Who you were helped you survive. Who you are now wants to live. This is a truth many people feel deeply, but rarely give themselves permission to honor. Throughout your life, you have worn many identities. The responsible one, the strong one, the achiever, the caretaker, the one who held everything together when others could not. At one time, these roles were necessary. They protected you. They gave you a sense of belonging and purpose. They helped you move through difficult seasons. But there comes a moment, often later in life, when something inside begins to feel heavy. Not because you are failing, but because you are evolving. I want to ask you something gently. Have you ever felt tired of being the same version of yourself, even though others still expect it? Have you ever thought, I don't want to carry this role anymore, but felt guilty for thinking it? In Buddhism, this experience is understood through the teaching of non-self. The self is not a fixed object. It is a living process constantly changing. When we cling to an identity that no longer fits, tension arises. From a psychological perspective, identity can become a habit. We keep playing a role long after it has stopped nourishing us. Not because it is true, but because it is familiar. I once spoke with a woman who had always been the strong one in her family. She said, "If I stop being strong, I don't know who I'll be." What she was really saying was, if I change, will I still be loved? This fear is very human. Many people resist growth not because it is wrong, but because it threatens belonging. Buddhism reframes this fear in a gentle way. Fear is not a warning sign. It is often a threshold. It appears when you are standing at the edge of something new. As attachment loosens, old roles naturally fall away. Not through force, not through rebellion, but through honesty. Identity becomes fluid, spacious, aligned with truth rather than habit. I want you to imagine wearing a coat that once kept you warm. Over time, the weather changes, but you keep wearing the same coat out of habit. Eventually, it feels heavy, uncomfortable. Letting go of an old identity is like taking off that coat. You are not rejecting your past. You are responding to the present. In 2026, I invite you to practice a small shift in language. Instead of saying, "This is who I am," try saying, "This is who I am right now." That small change creates space. It allows growth without betrayal. You are not erasing the person you were. You are honoring them by no longer forcing them to carry what no longer fits. When identity loosens, something beautiful happens. You become available for rest, available for curiosity, available for ways of being that feel lighter and more honest. There is deep peace in no longer needing to explain yourself to the person you used to be. When labels fall away, authenticity rises. This is not loss, it is freedom. Lesson 9. Return to yourself again and again. Awakening is not staying present. It is remembering to return. This understanding brings great relief, especially later in life, because many people believe that if they were truly mindful, they would never drift. They would never overcommit, never lose patience, never forget themselves again. But Buddhism never taught perfection. It taught recognition. Even with wisdom, the mind wanders. This is not failure. It is the nature of the human mind. I want you to imagine a path you have walked many times. Even if you know it well, you may still look away. You may take a wrong turn. What matters is not that you wandered. What matters is that you noticed. The moment you notice you have drifted is already a moment of awakening. Many people are very hard on themselves when they realize they have fallen back into old patterns. They say, "I should know better by now. I've done so much inner work. I shouldn't still be struggling with this." But let me ask you something gently. Would you speak this way to a child learning to walk? In Buddhist teaching, the mind is often compared to a young puppy on a leash. It pulls, it gets distracted, it wanders. The practice is not to punish the puppy. It is to guide it back again and again. Returning to yourself does not require retreat, silence, or dramatic change. It happens in very small moments. A pause before responding, a conscious breath, choosing rest instead of pushing, listening to your body instead of your fear. From a psychological perspective, each return strengthens self-regulation. The nervous system learns that drifting is not dangerous, and returning is safe. I once spoke with a man who said, "I keep losing myself in other people's problems." When I asked him what he did when he noticed this, he said, "I criticize myself." And I told him something very simple. Criticism delays the return. Kindness invites it. Each time you return without judgment, trust deepens, not trust in control, but trust in your own awareness. Over time, something subtle changes. You do not stay lost as long. You notice sooner, you recover faster. This is how inner refuge is built. In 2026, your world will likely move faster. Expectations will multiply, noise will increase, your ability to return to yourself will become your sanctuary. Throughout the day, ask gently, where is my attention right now? Is it nourishing me or draining me? If the answer is draining, you do not need to fix your entire life. You only need to come back. Come back to your breath. Come back to your body. Come back to this moment. Returning is not weakness, it is devotion. Each return strengthens self-trust, and slowly, without force, you begin to feel at home within yourself. This is not awakening as a destination. It is awakening as a relationship, one you return to again and again. Lesson 10. Let your life be guided by gentleness. This is the fruit of the path. Not something you force, not something you achieve, but something that naturally appears when the struggle softens, when simplicity has made space, when solitude has reintroduced you to yourself, when you no longer abandon your truth, when comparison has loosened its grip, when control has been released, when healing has replaced armor, when love no longer clings, when identity has become fluid, when returning to yourself has become familiar. Life no longer needs force. Many people believe that gentleness is what you choose when you are tired, as if it were a consolation prize. But Buddhism teaches something very different. Gentleness is not weakness. Gentleness is clarity without violence. I want to ask you something quietly. How often have you pushed yourself when your body asked for rest? How often have you demanded answers before they were ready to appear? Most of us were taught that to survive, we must harden, we must endure, we must compete, we must prove our strength. But later in life, many people realize something profound. Hardness may help you survive, but it does not help you live. Gentleness begins with your inner voice. The way you speak to yourself when you are tired, when you are uncertain, when you make a mistake. From a psychological perspective, harsh self-talk activates the same stress pathways as external threat. The body does not know the difference between being attacked by the world and being attacked by your own mind. When you soften toward yourself, the nervous system settles. And when the nervous system settles, wisdom has space to arise. I once spoke with a man who said, "If I stop pushing myself, I'm afraid I'll become lazy." And I told him something he did not expect. Rest is not laziness, it is repair. In Buddhism, the middle way is not about doing less or doing more. It is about doing what is needed without cruelty. Living gently does not mean avoiding growth. It means no longer harming yourself in the process of becoming. Gentleness asks different questions. Not how much can I endure, but what is sustainable? Not how do I prove my strength, but how do I stay present? Each morning in 2026, you might ask yourself one simple question. How can I be gentle with myself today? Each evening, you might ask another. Where did I honor my limits? These questions seem small, but they quietly reshape a life. When you stop being harsh with yourself, something changes in how you relate to others. Patience arises naturally. Listening deepens. You no longer need to prove anything. Your calm becomes your presence, and your presence becomes your influence. This is the quiet power Buddhism points to. Not dominating, not convincing, but stabilizing. Peace does not shout, it steadies. As this reflection comes to a close, I invite you to notice how you feel right now. There is nothing you need to fix, nothing you need to rush toward. These lessons were never meant to be mastered in one sitting. They are meant to be returned to, slowly, gently, again and again. In 2026, you do not need to become someone new. You only need to return to who you already are. When your life is guided by gentleness, it becomes sustainable. Meaning deepens. An awakening unfolds not through force, but through care. Conclusion. As we come to the end of this reflection, take a quiet moment to notice how you feel right now. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be rushed. These teachings were never meant to be mastered in one sitting. They are not instructions to follow perfectly. They are gentle reminders to return to yourself again and again. As you move through 2026, you may still feel tired at times. That does not mean you are lost. It simply means you are human. May you move forward with less pressure, more presence, and a little more kindness toward yourself. Peace does not come from forcing life to change. It comes from meeting life as it is, with a softer heart. Thank you for spending this time with me. Your presence and attention truly matter here. If you feel called to continue this quiet journey of mindfulness and Buddhist wisdom, you are warmly invited to subscribe and stay connected with Son.Mindfulness. May you be well, may you be peaceful, and may this year meet you with gentleness and good health.